So my name is Philippe Brown. I'm the founder of Brown Hudson. And very, very briefly, the background is to our company is I spent about 13 years of my life traveling the world constantly, personally dreaming up ideas for our clients, private families or companies. And that was a hugely creative part of the job. It was desk research, then it was going personally to Patagonia to compare one great estancia with another. And then the best part of my life for 13 years was that I got to come back with the clients to execute the incredible experience that I'd created for them to meet their brief. So that combination of huge creativity, but also meticulous attention to detail is something that has always been part of my DNA. And more recently, about 10 years ago, the company's DNA. And when I set up the company, I thought, the reason I set up the company was basically because if I kept traveling, I was going to turn into a complete nut job. You know, I could be flown into any country and create something incredible. But I thought, there are people out there whose lives are curated in a certain way who could benefit from this kind of skill set. And so that's the background to the company. We are the polar opposite of most travel companies that you'll have encountered. And what we'd like to do is share some of our thoughts on the trends so that you can go back to your employers with those ideas and have a firm base to plan or think about travel for them. So without further ado, I'm going to pass to Laura.
Okay, so, echoey, sorry about that. So first of all, we're going to run you through some sort of trends that we picked up from our research and also obviously clients coming through and really seeing the destinations that are, for want of a better word, hot this year and the coming years. And that's due to various things which we'll talk you through for each of the countries and also run through some new property openings and hotels. We're just going to run through the top 8 and be very quick. Called a quick fire, and then obviously any questions that you've got at the end, please ask, and we'll be here afterwards as well. So to begin with, we have Rwanda. What everybody sort of knows about Rwanda is obviously these beautiful creatures, gorillas, and obviously the sort of tragic history of the country with the genocide in 1994. However, since then, things have really changed. The country has grown a lot, and it's continuing to grow. And we're seeing a lot of travellers, with the last 2 years, 30%, tourism has gone up by about 30%. There are now 2 direct flights to Rwanda from London, so that's obviously helping the country as well. But also, some of the things you might not know about Rwanda are that they were, in 2008, they became the first country to have 50% parliament of women. So they are way ahead of us and many other countries in the world. They also banned plastic 10 years ago, plastic bags. And they have, on a weekly basis in their capital, they have this, initiative that they go around and they collect rubbish. They're much friendlier than we are as a capital city in terms of that. And so we're also seeing, due to that, obviously, they are much more progressive than you think as one of the safest countries in Africa. And we're seeing luxury properties are picking up on that as well and starting to open in the country. So One and Only opened at the end of last year near the National Park, and they are opening their Gorilla's Nest at the end of this year, which will be very close to Virunga Park. So obviously great for gorilla trekking. And then I haven't got an image of it, but Singita is also opening at the beginning of next year. So that's really going to see more of a rise of, with the properties coming in, a rise in travelling.
And just as a note, as a company, when we talk about bespoke, we are utterly bespoke. We have no contracts with anyone. So if we talk to you about anyone here, it's simply because they're amazing properties. It's not because we're in any way contracted. They're just amazing places. So the next area that's of interest is Sweden, a personal favourite of mine. It's 4th in terms of gender equality globally, so there's a bit of a parallel there with Rwanda. And what's interesting is if your employers are looking for a sort of Scandi feel and they're thinking about Iceland, Norway, Sweden, possibly Denmark, Iceland is talked about a great deal, but it's also incredibly popular these days. So Sweden is typically quieter at the same time of year. So if you want your employers to feel more special and not see too many other people, then possibly Sweden is the place to go. And the property that is of great interest is this one, called the Arctic Bath, created by a lovely chap called Kent Lindvall, which you might know about because he created a property called the Tree Hotel. Imagine teeny B&B, oldie worldy, crumbly B&B, nearby a forest with one room that is designed like a spaceship, another room which is a mirrored cube, another one that is a bird's nest. So you have this great combination of B&B, but incredible creativity, and this is the latest creation called the Arctic Bath, which consists of 6 suites and incredible spa wellness facilities. And whatever Kent does, he does it wonderfully. And this is a really good example of that.
And the next we have Belize. This is a beautiful blue hole in Belize, the second biggest barrier reef in the world. So typically Belize has always also been very popular with the US and backpackers. So it's got a bit of a previous reputation for backpacking and hasn't really been seen as kind of an exclusive destination. But actually what it has is exactly. It has caves. It has everything that really the Maldives has to offer. So it's really a great destination for honeymoons. But it also has the Mayan culture and it's got that history to it as well. So it's really a bit of a mix. And we're starting to see, again, some really great properties coming through. Which is kind of testament to the fact that it's becoming a little bit more popular these days. So this property is currently being built on, or a few properties, on Leonardo DiCaprio's private island. He's giving up that space, poor him, to give us some beautiful properties. It's due to be opened at the end of the year. Hopefully, it's a little bit delayed. It has been over the past because he keeps changing his mind and obviously trying to keep it as sustainable as possible, which is what we know Leo for. And then the Four Seasons is coming in 2021. So again, that's kind of just showing, as you can see from this visual as well, that it really is giving you a bit of the Maldives feel. But then it's very easy to get back into the country and to get a taste for the rich history and the culture.
Francis Ford Coppola also has a property there called Blankenau Lodge, and it's some of the most incredible pizzas I've eaten in Belize are at that particular property. Great pizza oven. He's obsessed with pizza. Next destination is Israel, somewhere I was traveling in with clients in March. Does anyone have employers who work in the tech realm or startup realm or that kind of thing? Well, Tel Aviv specifically, a population of 430,000, but is home to about 2,500 high-tech startups. So all the tech people that you find in Silicon Valley, in Tel Aviv you'll find in Silicon Wadi, which is their term for Silicon Valley. So there's an incredible vibe and a general, very vibrant feeling. Having cycled in downtown Tel Aviv, it's buzzing, it's cafe life, it's great temperature, and just a vibrant economy. In terms of properties, we're thinking about 3 properties really. Setai is one of the hottest properties, certainly in Tel Aviv. It literally opened about 3 weeks before we took some clients there, set in a former jail, but right maybe 200 meters from Jaffa Old Town. So slightly outside of Tel Aviv, but a stunning property with beautiful rooms right on the sea. In fact, it's not on a beach, but it's a road away from the sea. So it's delightful. And then soon we'll be seeing the Driscoll opening also, probably about 1 kilometer away in Tel Aviv Yafo, which is the bohemian, arty neighborhood, steps away from the Setai. So that's lovely. And then hot off the press, I was at a lunch with the team from Six Senses who are announcing a lot of their new openings between now and 2019. And if anyone knows the Negev Desert, which is in the way south of Israel, they're going to be opening a desert property in between now and 2019. So if you want an Israeli desert experience, that will be kind of interesting.
Okay, and on to Bolivia. So another country that's really been kind of well known for backpacking again, but it's really coming through as more of a luxury destination. And that's mainly due to new properties and new camp, sort of luxury camp developments, but also due to La Paz becoming what they're now calling the coolest city in South America, due to its art culture, its gastronomy, and new luxury boutiques, luxury boutique hotels opening as well. One of the latest restaurants to open is Gustu, which is, if you can't get into Noma in Copenhagen, basically that's the same thing. So pop on over to South America and go to Gustu, and you'll get the same experience. Gustu, Gustu, in La Paz.
And that's a great secret to know, that if you can't get into Noma, which has a waiting list that's gazillions of years long, you can say, crazy idea, I'll sneak you into Bolivia. Why? Because their sister restaurant is there, and you can get in really easily. Same kind of kitchen.
And so not properties. So recently we've done some work in Bolivia in the, excuse my pronunciation, but the
Altiplano.
Altiplano,
Yeah.
that's the one. So we built camps for clients out there, and this was the inside of a dome camp. And then on the next stop was a yurt camp. So these can be built to spec to client specification anywhere sort of along the way. And then if we're looking for slightly different terrain up near the Andes, we can come to Simani Lodge,
Yeah.
which has got some of the best fly fishing in South America, if that's what your bosses are after.
Yeah, people don't associate Bolivia with fishing and watery type situations, but this particular property is outstanding for that. And I think generally when you're thinking about your employer's travels, one piece of advice we'd love to share is don't limit yourself to the stuff that already exists. If on your way to work or to the office, you have a crazy idea that doesn't exist, then there are people out there who can bring it to life. And suddenly the realm of possibility that you're offering your employers or bosses is just way broader. Everything is possible. So tented camps in random places, why not? You know, the world is your oyster. So Cambodia, another fascinating country with a history that's in parts tragic, and is most well known for the temples of Angkor at Siem Reap. What's interesting about Cambodia is that because of its historical situation, the vast percentage of the population is actually aged under 30, which means that it's a very vibrant country that is moving forward and wanting to put the past well behind it. So there is a vibrancy, but also a desire to hold on to traditions. And there's more to Cambodia than just the temples of Angkor Wat, Angkor Thom, Ta Prohm, and my favorite, Ban Tisrai, which is like a jewel. It's like the most beautiful small temple that I urge you to go and see if you're ever there. There's also a sort of coastal beach scene. So people are spending time at the temples, but also in Phnom Penh, where there are some new property openings. This is a particularly interesting property, not far from the temples of Angkor. They're focused on wildlife and preservation of natural ecosystems. Because there's a huge pressure from tourism on the area around Siem Reap, these guys, their mission is to preserve the environment. Slightly different story. And then in terms of other properties, we have the Alila Villas on Koh Rong, and also Six Senses are going to be opening a property during the course of the next year on Koh Krabi. So you can think about temples, you can think about Phnom Penh, but also the coast. So it's a much bigger story now.
And then we come to Nicaragua, which is another one. Again, it's kind of a theme. The country's kind of coming through and really shining after a little bit of tragedy. So following the Civil War and kind of being in the shadow of Costa Rica for a very long time, they're really coming into their own now. And it's got a great mix of wildlife, wellness, sports, adventure. It's kind of the destination you go to if you want that adventure and you kind of want to get out there and sort of get rough and ready, but then also not be too outside of your comfort zone. So in terms of properties, this is a private island that opened last year. So it's kind of coined its own phrase, which is Nicaraguan, because it's in the Caribbean and it's got all the feel of that. but then a helicopter ride away and you're on Nicaragua. So you get a real mix again of the two, two very different feels. And then if you want to be on the mainland and want to get really into wellness and an adventure and sport, then Nikupe is the place to be, which is very centralised right in the centre of the country.
And last of all, Bhutan. I hear people sighing about Bhutan there. Why do you sigh?
It's the walk, it's getting there.
Ah, yes. But how good do you feel when you get there?
Even Prince Charles couldn't make it.
I know. Well, that's because he was travelling with another company.
Yeah, that wasn't us.
That was catty of me. So Bhutan is an incredibly special place. They opened up to tourism in 1974, and I think they had about 200 people coming in. Today, from the UK, I think it was in 2016, they had about 3,200 people. So when people say you feel special from the minute you land in Bhutan, you definitely do. And what people tend to talk about in Bhutan is spirituality. So it's you'll visit pilgrimage sites, monasteries, zongs. And so the story that most people talk about is very much connected to spirituality and their religious beliefs and legends and mystical characters. But what's interesting is to get connected to the regular life of regular Bhutanese people. And that's something we try and explore more. And typically in Bhutan, in terms of properties, there have been traditional properties, and Aman Resorts, which you may be familiar with, have got a series of 5 properties there. But the new kids on the block are Six Senses, a group that are very much concerned with sustainability and a sensitivity to every culture they have hotels or resorts in. So around about October, they're going to be opening 5 properties. One in Paro, which is where the airport is. One in Thimphu, which is the capital. It used to have a traffic light, the only traffic light in the country. They got rid of it because no one used it. This is Bhutan. It's incredibly special. And then there are 3 others. One is in Punakha, another one is in a place called Gangti, and then in Bumtang. And there's an airport in Bumtang, an airport in Paro, so you can travel in one direction and then fly all the way back. And it's just a wonderful place to escape to. So Six Senses is basically the latest opening there, but there are other properties. And what we tend to do wherever we're operating is to think of the optimal combination of different hotels to have different effects for people. So there you go. That's the story in Bhutan. So what we've done there is, when working with Tiger, they said, we really want to share the trends, the hot places, the properties, and the stuff of travel. So those are the kind of things that were apparently of most interest to you. But the last 3 gems we'd like to share go beyond places and the stuff of travel. According to Skift Megatrends, this is a very recent research document, they talked about personal fulfillment being the ultimate luxury for this year. So that is almost travel having a sort of spiritual vocation of changing people and going beyond just seeing stuff and coming home. And so a point that we'd like to make is slightly counterintuitive. The first point is this: your boss, not the destination, matters. So historically, and I'm not a travel academic by any stretch of imagination, but I've had this sort of random observation that since the days of the Grand Tour or the Cook's tours, when people started to package travel people, the value they've added is their knowledge of places and hotels and things to do. Nowadays, all of that information is out there already. You know it because you have to wade through it when you're planning things for your employers. And so the thing we'd encourage you to do is to kind of neglect the destination a bit and invest more time getting to your boss and finding out what their motivations are and really digging into what they're about. Because the travel industry typically is focused on destinations. It's what they know, it's the value they've added. But over time, the shift is going to have to go away from the stuff of travel and onto the psychology of the people traveling. And that's where we end up having a role that's kind of like a cross between a therapist, an investigative journalist, and then a financial planner who's got like a strategic view, a long-term view of people traveling and the benefits they derive. The second thing we'd urge you to think about is the kind of questions. So your bosses might say, I want to go here, and this is kind of what I want. And the temptation might be to go off and kind of do that, because they're all smart people and they've done their research. But a great value you could consider adding is saying, okay, yeah, but let me explore that with certain questions to get to the essence of how they want to feel at the end of the trip. Who are they traveling with? What are their needs? Because the minute you start digging into that stuff, other ideas might pop up, or you might discover that the place they're dying to go because they read it in Condé Nast Traveler is in fact not the best idea for when they want to travel. That's where it gets complicated, because they're asking you to do these things maybe 7 days out or 7 months out, and how they're thinking about their travel 7 months out could be really different to how they feel when they're actually traveling. So we suggest asking the right questions and in the right way. Someone being asked a bunch of questions when they're on the train, a busy train, going to the office, and they're stressed, might not be the best time. It might be worth taking a bit of time out to have a drink and just explore things in a more gentle way. And the way we explore questions is we involve a psychologist, a chap called Michael Bond. And so we have an interview. He's related to James Bond, yeah. And basically we said, we want to get to the essence of people's needs. What are the right questions to ask? And so he helped us devise the interview that we have with clients. So we come at clients in different directions, asking the same questions in different ways to get to the essence. It's really simple. We're kind of lazy. We believe that if we ask the right questions, or if you ask the right questions, your employers or our clients will basically tell you exactly what you need to know, which is kind of the first point. If you ask the right questions, they'll tell you where they need to go and how they need to go. And then lastly, this is my favorite really, whoever you work with and however you work, be more demanding. The travel industry, I think, could do a great deal more to help people travel better. But unfortunately, what it does is it likes to sell lots of stuff quickly and easily without investing too much time. So the example, which I know you hate me bringing up, is because it's a very frivolous example, but I would like people, next time they book a hotel, just for fun, to say to the hotel, my employer's a little particular. On Monday, she would like all her food to be red. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I want it to taste great, and I want it to be creative and nourishing, but it can only be red. And on Tuesday, I want it to be all green, and I want it to be fun for the kids. Now, it's a frivolous example, but that's an example of pushing people who are used to delivering things in a certain way to a certain standard. It's pushing them to deliver more. It's pushing them to kind of break what they do and make it better suited to your employers, whatever it is they want, however weird or unusual or quirky. And that's what we spend a lot of time doing, is taking standard stuff and breaking it and making it better, or even, a lot of the time, bringing people into experiences, and you can do this as well, bring people who've got nothing to do with travel into your boss's journey. There's a guy in North London who's been selling newspapers and the same wooden shack for 30 years. And his dad did it before him and his granddad before. He's got nothing to do with travel. But if I were to walk you and introduce you to him, the stories he would tell you about what he's seen are mind-blowing. And it wouldn't cost a penny. And that's how we think. We think, what is possible? Who can we bring in? What value are they going to add to people's lives? And so you can think that way as well. It takes orchestration, it takes phone calls, but whether it's a newspaper seller in North London or Archbishop Desmond Tutu, there's no reason why anyone can't come into your employer's journey to make it rich and different and memorable. The last thought I'll leave you with is that typical families probably only have 16 big trips in them with their kids. And so suddenly, if you, it's a very depressed look, they're only 16, you're absolutely right. Huh? In their lives, big trips. Well, yeah, maybe I want to meet your employer. But that's the point. And whoever you work with needs to have respect for your time and your employer's time, and to think in terms of 16 stories, 16 kind of legacies, and think about each trip as a jewel and how they're going to craft it. And that was an observation I picked up from talking to a hotelier. And it was like, wow, you're right. You could put 16 bits of paper on the wall and suddenly think, okay, what's the first one going to be? What's the story there? Is that one going to be a game where the whole trip is, there are actors and crazy things happening and things change from day to day? Or is the fifth trip going to be the trip where, as a family, you don't know where you're going? The travel company you work with decides the destination. And they think about the benefits of that destination to you, but they don't tell you. But 16 trips, it's not that much. So anyway, that's enough rambling from me. I can feel your gaze saying, just shut up, Philippe. Thank you so much, Tiger, for the idea of this evening. Thank you to the Royal Institution, a phenomenal institution devoted to science. If ever you're in the area on a weekend, it's a really interesting building just to wander around. But thank you for giving us your attention, and we wish you well in all your endeavours and all your journeys. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.